Good morning, everyone. Good morning, children. Good to see you all. Hey, good to see everyone here in person. Thank you for joining us indoors today at the threat of rain. We didn't want to take the risk. If you were with us last month, we had a day where we were like, it's probably not going to rain. Is it going to rain? It's probably not going to rain. And we kept worship outside, and then right in the middle of worship, it started raining, and we all had to run inside and reset up. So we're like, you know what? We'll start indoors today and see what happens. So thank you for adjusting with us. We still will not use projection other than this is our little sign to let you know that if you need lyrics, you want to check in digitally, you want to do an offering digitally, you want to see the announcements, all that's available on thegrove.today. If you would like to hold paper lyrics, those are back at the round table by the back doors, and you can grab some of those. I think that's all the logistics, so welcome online and in person. We always start by singing together, so please rise as you are able, and we'll join our voices. Church of God, united to serve one common Lord, proclaim to all one message with hearts in glad accord. Christ ever goes before us, we follow day by day with strong and eager footsteps along the upward way. Though creeds and tongues may differ, they speak, O Christ of thee, and in thy loving spirit we shall one people be. Lord, may our faithful service and singleness amain proclaim to all the power of thy redeeming name. May thy great prayer be answered, that we may all be one, close bound by love, united in thee, God's blessed Son, to bring a single witness, to make the pathway bright, that souls which grope in darkness may find the one true light. Beautiful. Y'all may have a seat.
Well, good morning, everybody. I would love for us to be outside, but like we said, I'm like waiting for the rain. We're hoping for the rain so we can justify being inside. If nothing else, I get to wear my nice white shoes that I've only been able to wear 3 times now that I will not wear outside. I'll take that for today. My name's Jeremy. I'm the pastor here of the Grove Cottage Grove. It is so good to be with you, even and especially indoors. We are a brand new church that exists to grow goodness. So my hope is that even as we're indoors or you're watching with us online or interacting with us anytime throughout the week out in the community, that somehow that is nurturing healing, wholeness, and beauty in your life.
Hi, I'm Miranda. I'm one of the church leaders here at the Grove. And I'd like to bring everybody's attention to the pamphlet that you would have received as you walked in. If you could just open that up, and on the inside you'll see a little form. If you could give us some information about you, that'd be wonderful. We always love seeing who's here, who's new. But then also on the inside, you'll notice that there's a little spot of ways to give. You can do it via Venmo, online, or in person. There is a basket located right by where you got the music sheets that you can do those in-person donations. Also, kids are very important to us here at the Grove. There is no playground, obviously, on the inside. So we've got our little wiggle space there. There's coloring in the pews. There is a nursery that is unstaffed, and then the TV should be on there if you want to watch from there as well. But otherwise, the kids will be with us today.
They're truly welcome in this space, and that might mean that it gets a little bit loud, and that is to be expected, and like grace abounds for all of us, correct? If you do have kids, all we ask is that you kind of keep an eye on them. We've had moments where it's been like WWE Raw, like kids leaping off of things, like dropping elbows. If we could avoid some of that, that would be great. A little bit of noise, totally expected, totally appreciated even. All of the stuff that Miranda just mentioned is also available on that webpage. So if you don't want to fill out the physical sheet, you can do that on the webpage, just clicking a button. If you want to go to the giving stuff, there's a button for that as well, again, on the webpage. Also, below all of that, there are 3 announcements for today, which are on the back here. We're not going to talk through those 3. We'll get to those at the end. But just so you know, if you want to look at those now and get more information about them now, you can. Otherwise, what we're going to do now is we're going to move into Connection Point, because it's not about us just talking at you. giving you all sorts of information. The reason we gather is for us to connect with one another and connect with God. So Connection Point is that opportunity where we give you the opportunity to talk with one another, and we give you a prompted question to be able to discuss that with people around you. So you may have noticed that the garden we've been growing outside, we had our first harvest this past week. Woohoo! We had some cabbage, some green beans, and then some kohlrabi, which I have no idea what that is nor what it's used for. So the Connection Point question today, there's lots of stuff that's being harvested now. Maybe you have a garden. Maybe people that you know have a garden, and you're receiving all of their extra stuff that they can't make use of. So the question for today is, what is something when someone brings you it from their garden, you either love it or you hate it? So your neighbor brings you zucchini, and maybe you're like, I love zucchini. Now I can make all this stuff with zucchini. Or maybe you are the person who receives zucchini, and you're like, what on earth am I supposed to do with this zucchini? That is our question for today. So you can stand up, find somebody near you don't know very well, introduce yourself, and discuss that question. We'll reconvene in a couple minutes.
All right, y'all can finish up and find your way back to your spots. Tell me if it's just me, but I've been feeling that I feel this every August. It's like a seasonally really odd time. Like we've been really busy all summer and are still kind of like catch our breath and maybe feeling some exhaustion from all of the amazing things we've been doing all summer. And then there's also like, wow, in like 3 weeks, big things are coming. School is starting, our fall kickoff is coming, babies are coming. Like, it's this weird in-between season of we're like, okay, maybe we're almost ready for fall. We're also kind of exhausted, but also like we've got to be gearing up for what's next. And it's just energetically, it's like this time where we're just like, ah. And I don't know about y'all, but I get caught up in it, like trying to keep pace, and then also simultaneously feeling tired from that. So I thought it might be a good time for us all to collectively sort of pause together and just embrace a few very brief moments of stillness if you don't practice that on your own normally, or if you've just been busy enough that you've been forgetting to practice some stillness, or you haven't had the chance to catch your breath yet. Could we take a few moments and do that together as a part of our worship? Recognizing that God is with us in all of this, that all of the good things God is, hope, love, peace, all of that goodness that comes from God already resides among us and within us. And it's up to us to draw our attention to that. So we'll try. The kids are busy, but we'll try to take a few moments of calm. Hey, kids. Hey, kids. Hey, kids. We were just saying, wouldn't it be nice if we just had a few moments of calm? Do you guys ever do that? Do you ever practice like some calm moments? We got a no and we got a sure.
Accurate.
Do your teachers ever do that with you in school or anything? You did it in first grade? That's good. What do you do to help yourself calm down? It's hard, I know.
Yeah.
Is it hard for grown-ups too to calm down? Some of the grown-ups said yes too. Okay, so here's what I do to help myself calm down. Take in a big, deep breath through my nose, and then out through your mouth. Do that a couple more times. You can even close your eyes. And recognize the presence of God in this place. And then we'll sing together again in just a moment. You are here, you are holy, we are standing in your glory. For you've come to bring peace, to be loved, to be nearer to us. So you've come to bring life, to be light, to shine brighter in us. So God with us, our deliverer, you are Savior. In your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption. God with us, you are God with us. Oh, you come to be hope to this world for your honor and name, and you come to take sin, to bear shame, and to conquer the grave. Oh, Emmanuel, you are God with us, our deliverer, you are Savior. In your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption. God with us, you are God with us. You are here, you are holy, we are standing in your glory. You are here, you are holy, we are standing in your glory. You are here, you are holy, we are standing in your glory. Our deliverer, you are Savior. In your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption. God with us, you are God with us, you are God with us. We pray. God, thank you for always helping us find our center and find our peace in you. Even though the world continues to be a busy place and we struggle to keep the pace and always feel like there's more we could be doing or should be doing, there's very little time to rest. God, help us practice rest as a spiritual practice, as a way of connecting with one another and with you. Help us remember to breathe deep and feel you deep in our chest. Help us remember to find your presence within us and within this community, and remember that it is in your presence we find our strength. God, thank you for helping bring us back to these moments of peace. And we love you. Amen.
All right, we have made it. We have made it to the end of our Splash series, exclamation point, and exploring the depths of God's grace all the way to the bottom of the sea. We've made it to the end of the book of Jonah, about the life of a guy named Jonah. And if you've been here or not, just kind of to rehash the story that has led us to this final chapter. There was this man named Jonah. He was a man who was a prophet, supposed to be a public truth teller, was supposed to be someone who was sent by God to deliver a very specific message on behalf of God. So the story opens with Jonah getting this message from God saying, get up and go to this city of Nineveh, deliver this message for me. And Jonah gets up and he goes in the opposite direction. And he hops on a boat going the exact opposite direction of Nineveh. Immediately after that, he's on the boat and this big storm comes, and it's so strong that the boat is like threatening to pull itself apart. And in this moment, Jonah realizes, I want to continue to run away from this, so I'm going to place the blame for this on myself and on God, and to continue to try to get away from God and from doing this thing, I'm going overboard. I'm willing to go down to the depths of the sea, or in the ancient world, I'm willing to go to the depths of hell to get away from this calling that God has for me. So we travel down the Jonah to the depths of hell, and it's not as great as he would anticipate maybe. It's not the escape that he was hoping for. And in that moment of dire need, he reaches out to God, realizes that he doesn't want to and can't do this on his own. And lo and behold, there is this giant fish that is waiting to consume him, that is waiting to rescue him from the depths of hell. And a 3 days journey brings him back to the surface where he is disgorged. He's thrown up. He's given new life, given a rebirth for him to potentially do better going forward. He finds himself on dry land. He's been rebirthed. And this same call comes back to him again. Jonah, get up, go to Nineveh and deliver this message for me. This time Jonah does that. He gets up, he goes to Nineveh, and he gives this 5-word sermon. In 40 days, Nineveh overturned. He's hoping that means they're going to be destroyed. What they do, though, is the people of Nineveh, these enemies of Jonah's people, they realize the wrong that they've done. They look down at their hands, and they realize what bad things their hands have done, and they completely change course. They cry out to God. They cover themselves in these sackcloths, which are like these garments to show that they are mourning and sorry for what they've done. And they say, hopefully God will see this and change God's mind. And lo and behold, God's mind is changed. This seems like a really good way to end this story, right? And if the story ended like that, it would be a happy ending, not only for the people of Nineveh, but it would seem that everybody would walk away happy. But this is not the end of the story, and not everybody is going to walk away from this story happy. So, after 3 chapters, we end with this 4th chapter, just 11 verses again, short and sweet. This is where we pick up the story. All of this has just happened. The people of Nineveh have changed their ways. God has relented from sending this destruction. This displeased Jonah terribly, and he became very angry. He prayed to the Lord and said, "Oh Lord, this is just what I thought would happen when I was in my own country. This is what I tried to prevent by attempting to escape to Tarshish. Because I knew that you are gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in mercy, and one who relents concerning threatening judgment. So now, Lord, kill me instead, because I would rather die than live." The Lord said to him, "Are you really so very angry?" Jonah left the city and sat down east of it. He made a shelter for himself there and sat down under it in the shade to see what would happen to the city. The Lord appointed a little plant and caused it to grow over Jonah to be a shade over his head to rescue him from his misery. Now Jonah was very delighted about the little plant. So God sent a worm at dawn the next day, and it attacked the little plant so that it dried up. When the sun began to shine, God sent a hot east wind, so the sun beat down on Jonah's head, and he grew faint. So he despaired of life and said, "I would rather die than live." God said to Jonah, "Are you really so very angry about the little plant?" And Jonah said, "I am so angry as I could possibly be." The Lord said, "You were upset about this little plant, something for which you have not worked, nor did you do anything to make it grow. It grew up overnight and died the next day. Should I not be even more concerned about Nineveh, this enormous city? There are more than 120,000 people in it who do not know right from wrong, as well as many animals. The end. Sometimes when I'm reading books to my kids, I will there's 4 pages left, but sometimes I'll just finish a page like it's a cliffhanger and just say the end. And they know that can't possibly be the end. This is the end. This is like the story that gets cut off. There is no missing ending here. Should I not be concerned about the people of Nineveh and also many animals? The end. So just to kind of backtrack and relook at what just happened in these 11 verses, you might be asking, Jonah, what on earth did you expect when this all went down? And Jonah's response would be, this is exactly what I expected would happen and why I didn't want to go through this in the first place. This is why when you told me to get up and go, I did not get up and go. I went the other way because this is what I was worried about. I was worried that you were going to be all gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love, slow to send judgment. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the opposite thing. I wanted them to get what they had coming to them. That's why I went the other way. This is exactly what I expected. I wish you would just kill me now because it would be better than having to deal with this. I mentioned last week I have a house with 3 young children in it, and sometimes that means drama. And this recent thing that has been happening with one of our kids, who shall go unnamed, when something happens, the dramatic response is, "This is the worst day of my life." To which my wife and I are like, "Is it really that bad?" And what is the response? Yes. This is the worst day of my life. So I imagine God in this moment as Jonah's throwing this hissy fit. He's like, God's rubbing temples, saying, is this really as bad as you think it is? And in order to try to help Jonah understand, to kind of reason with Jonah, God does this thing where God makes his plant grow up. So Jonah is still not convinced this is the way it's going to go. Remember, 40 days, Nineveh overthrown or overturned. The people of Nineveh have changed their way, but Jonah still apparently is holding out hope that they're actually going to get destroyed. So Jonah sets up camp outside the city, and Jonah's just going to wait there hoping that they do get destroyed. So while Jonah's out there, God allows this plant to grow up over Jonah that protects him from the heat of the day. And Jonah's really happy about this plant. He really likes this little plant. Well, no sooner does the plant grow that God then sends a worm that devours the plant. There's no longer any shade, and then this wind blows in, and it's extremely hot, and Jonah is just miserable, and he's so upset about this plant having died. And again, God is trying to reason with Jonah. Are you really so upset about this plant? And Jonah says, yes, I am. This is the worst day of my life. I would rather die than continue to sit here. Have you ever tried to reason with a child? Have you ever tried to reason with a grown-up? It usually doesn't go well, and it's not going well here in this moment. God tries to reason with Jonah. There is no reasoning with Jonah. He is convinced that this is the worst thing that has ever happened, and he would rather die than live because this plant has died. And now God goes into this monologue. It is the longest that we have God speaking in the book of Jonah, and yet it's only 3 verses long. But God goes out, and he's having done this thing to kind of show Jonah how unreasonable Jonah is being. God points out, okay, you were upset about this plant. I see that you're upset about this plant. Why would I not be even more upset about these people? Over 100,000 people. You're upset about this plant, but you're okay with them meeting their demise. Why would I not be upset about all of those people? And also, many animals who are there. How unreasonable is Jonah being? It's absurd, right? How dare Jonah act this way? And then the funny thing is the story ends. We have no idea what Jonah does from here, right? There is no happy ending. There is no Aesop's fable, like here's the moral of the story. There is no sequel to this. It's just like this hanging ending. God delivers this line, and we're not really sure what Jonah's response is going to be. It's almost like we're not supposed to read this as a story that simply happened to this one guy, but it's a story that constantly happens. It's almost as if we're supposed to find ourselves wrapped up in this story and seeing that maybe this story was not just meant for this one person, but maybe this was a message to a much broader group of people or to us as humans. You people of Israel, you who were called to be God's people who believed that was very exclusive. You who came up with this idea of one God and then chased after all of these other gods. You who set up all of these rules about what it meant to be God's people, and then you went ahead and broke all those rules, and God hung with you regardless. Is it so unreasonable to think that the definition of God's people ought to be wider? Is it not unreasonable for people who have worshipped one God to come around to a different way of living? Is it not unreasonable for people who have broken all the rules to figure out that they have broken all the rules and to repent and change their ways and to be accepted within the grace of God? Is it not unreasonable for us to say that the unending, undeserved, unbelievable love of God is for anyone and everyone who can come to understand and respond to it? Is that not unreasonable? That is a message not only for Jonah, but for the people of Israel of which he was a part, and also for us today. This book that we've been reading, the story that we've been going through, is all about the grace of God, which we have defined as the unending, the undeserved, the unbelievable love of God. And we've talked about, as we've read through this story, the different experiences that we can have of God's grace and how those experiences are a little bit different. First, there is the prevenient grace of God, which is that grace of God that goes out before us, which is on this trail before us and is like inviting us in before we can even respond. Last week we talked about the justifying grace of God. This is the grace when we realize that we can't do this on our own. God's hands are extended to us, and it is our position to then reach out, acknowledging our need. And yet it is so often that people and traditions focus exclusively, primarily, but often exclusively on that justifying grace, that one-time event. You make a decision for Jesus. You make a decision for God. There's this one time when things are made right, and then it's all clear from there. You've got your ticket punched, right? But what good is heaven somewhere else some other time when we are contributing or allowing hell to happen here? What good is a life that experiences that grace in that moment that is not transformed going forward? And so within our tradition, within the United Methodist tradition, of which we are a part, we also talk about this third experience of grace, which is sanctifying grace. Fancy word. You don't need to know what sanctifying is, other than that it is the constant movement, that is constant growth, that is saying we never arrive at a point where which we are perfect, but we are constantly moving towards perfection. We are constantly saying, how can we be better human beings? How can we grow in grace ourselves and extend that grace to other people? How can we grow in love of God and our neighbors as we understand the love that God has for us? There is no arriving. We're constantly moving forward, deepening our curiosity and sense of awe as we talk about it here at the Grove. I had a reminder of this past week as I was at an event. I'm trying to be careful here. I was at an event with a bunch of people from a community of which I used to be a part several years ago. And it was an important thing for me to be there at this event. And yet I was absolutely dreading being there. And the reason is that I haven't been a part of that community for several years, and I have grown a whole lot in those years. I've changed a whole lot. I've changed and refined, and I think strengthened some of my beliefs and values around a key many things. And I was convinced that my experience of being there in that space that day might not be a positive one, because in many ways those beliefs and values are in tension with, or like in direct conflict with, many of them. And yet I went anyways, and I pulled into the parking lot. I got there early. I pulled into the parking lot, and I did not get out of my car. I looked at the bumper stickers in the parking lot. I looked at the people who I saw going in. I thought about the people who were probably in there. And I thought about how there might be some conflict. Some of it might be external, most of it not. I thought about the things that people were going to be thinking about me, saying about me behind my back, the interactions that I would have, the interactions that I would not have, because certain people would not want to have interactions with me. And I seriously debated starting my car and pulling out of the parking lot. And in that moment, as the minutes ticked off my watch, I thought about Jonah. I thought about this story from thousands of years ago and half a world away, and I said audibly, God, give me the grace that I have also experienced. Allow me to have that same type of grace for the people who are in there. And I got up, got out of the car, and I went inside, and it was fine. It was fine. This story from thousands of years ago, maybe 3,000 years ago, and half a world away, is an opportunity again for us, a calling for us to say, you have come to understand the depths of God's unending, undeserved, unbelievable love. Is it not unreasonable that we might extend that to other people that we might even find undeserving? This is not to say that we allow people to continue to do poor things. Maybe, however, it is an opportunity for us to cheer for transformation for people even when we don't agree with them. It is an opportunity for us to cheer them on even and especially when we come to heads with them. The Ninevites were Jonah's enemies. They had killed his people. And yet, Jonah had come to understand the grace of God, and God was telling him, is it not unreasonable for them maybe to experience that grace as well? So my prayer, my hope is that we as flawed people, as we ourselves come to understand the grace of God, the unending, undeserved, unbelievable love that God has for us, that we might grow in that love, grow in that grace, extend that love and grace to other people. You might even call it growing goodness. May that be so. Which is a perfect opportunity for us to transition into what we call communion or the Lord's Supper or the Eucharist. The word Eucharist comes from the word grace. In the final moments that Jesus had with his closest followers, he gathered around a meal with them and retold this story from their history, this story of God acting decisively in human history to set God's people free. It was this moment at which God blew open the doors of grace. And in that moment, gathered for that meal with these people that Jesus had come to know and that had come to follow him over the years, he shared this meal with them and he reinterpreted it. He did not close the doors and say, only you who are worthy are welcome in. He did not say, you are only welcome in if you have all the right beliefs and you can check off on the dotted line, sign your name at the bottom. In that room was a person who was going to turn him over to be killed, among other people who in the next 24 hours would scatter, would completely abandon him. Jesus did not say, you're not welcome here. Instead, the grace of God abounded. The unending, undeserved, unbelievable love of God was extended even to them, especially to them. So in that room, Jesus took these everyday elements that they would have been familiar with. He took this loaf of bread and he broke it and said, imagine this is my body, which is given for you. Yes, even for you. Do this as often as you eat it in remembrance of me. Then he took this cup of wine and said, imagine this is my blood, which is poured out for you. Yes, even you, especially you. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For when you do these things, you remember the grace of God that abounds in and through you until it becomes overwhelming. So in just a moment, we're going to invite you forward to partake in this. Once again, you don't have to be a member of this church in order to participate in this. You don't have to have all of your doctrine and beliefs about God figured out. You do not have to be an adult. The grace of God is for everyone, available for everyone, and the best ways to experience the grace of God is to experience it. So just a moment, we'll invite you forward. We have these small cups. As you come up, we will say a quick blessing over you. We'll give you one of these. There's two different layers. The top layer has a wafer, which represents the body of Christ. It is gluten-free, so if you are gluten-free, you are welcome to participate. The second layer gets you to the grape juice, which represents the blood of Christ. It is grape juice, not wine, so if you're in recovery, you're also welcome and invited to participate. And then you can either hold on to these or there's a trash at the back. You can bring it directly to there or hold on to it when we wrap up the service in just a few minutes. So then I'll invite Miranda to come up. And I'll invite you to come up as you feel comfortable.
just a little time. Share some bread and wine. Weave your heart into mine. My friend.
When Jeremy was talking, I was remembering probably one of the most impactful experiences with communion I've had in my life. And I may have shared this before, but it's just too good not to share. Jacob and I were invited to be a part of a tour around to do musical performances and sort of a service for a group of prisons in Florida, like years ago, maybe 10 years ago or so. And we went around, we did, 22 prisons in like 1 week. It was wild. And we had this like hour and a half long program that we put on for them. It was just like fun music. It was like a Christmas program, fun music. And also we added in some like sacred songs as well. And then there was always this part of the service where somebody from our group got up and like shared their testimony about this like radical love of God that they've experienced. And then we had communion. And this is in a space where, mind you, like the inmates are not supposed to really be interacting with us and with each other. They, most of the time, were expected to just sort of sit there peacefully and fall in line. They were not treated with a whole lot of dignity. And a lot of times they came in feeling very somber and had trouble making eye contact. And like, these are people who, you know, some of them have ended up in the prison system just due to circumstance. Some of them ended up in the prison system due to their own actions. But either way, like, they're not treated like full humans there. And we welcomed them in, had fun with them, got to laugh with them, and then got to break bread with them. Like actual bread, because it was pre-COVID, where we weren't so afraid of sharing germs. And I can't tell you, like, we cried every single time, like 22 services, and every single time seeing these men and women who were like very broken come up and receive that level of grace that they did not experience on a regular basis at all. Like, you know how some people, when they take another person's life, they get a tattoo of a tear as sort of a mark of like, this is how many lives I've taken. And to see some of those men walk up with those tattoos, and to see like actual tears running down those tattooed tears, it was just like this radical picture of what that love of God is like. Like, we talk about the love of God all the time, and we say it so much that it can kind of lose its meaning and its impact. But like, that is what it is like. That is what it's like to receive communion, and like what the first communion was like. It wasn't just like Jesus' last meal with his friends. It was that, and there were some people in that room who like really did not deserve that level of grace because they betrayed Jesus in the worst way possible. And then to experience that in the prisons of like, these are some men and women who have done some of the worst things imaginable and have made life very hard for other people, or have lived really hard lives themselves. To see them like humbly experience that level of love and grace was like, man, if this is for them, then this is for me too. And it was, I don't know, again, it was just such a like, we say this word like God is love all the time, but to see how impactful that love really is changed us. Hope that we can remember that as we sing our final song together today, remembering that this love is not just like oh, I love you, but this is like a divine level of love, an extension of God to us and to others, and we can participate in that and turn that around and offer that to others as well. So if you would, please join us for our last song. tear it down. Where there is hatred, may peace abound. In every temple, may we be filled with love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine. Beyond our borders, beyond our creeds, to love our neighbors, the least of these. Where there is violence, let mercy overthrow with love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine. I still believe love is the answer. Can we see heaven all around? I still believe love is the answer. Can we see heaven all around? I still believe love is the answer. Can we see heaven all around? I still believe love is the answer. Can we see heaven all around? I pledge allegiance to hope and peace. You are the angel who welcomed me. Transcend our systems, transcend our fears. Love is immortal, love is all we need. Love is immortal, love is all we need. Love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine.
It didn't rain. It's okay. It's still good to be with you in this space. A few things as we go. Again, turning your attention either to the bottom of that webpage or to the back here are 3 announcements for today and for this month, and then one more right at the end, simply because it's timely. First of all, get involved. Fall's coming. All 3 of these are about fall coming. Woohoo, boo, both of them. One thing is getting involved. One of the best ways to get plugged in here and to meet other people and to use your gifts and passions is to find a volunteer role that allows you to do that and contribute to the life of the church and contribute to helping welcome the people who are arriving behind you. If you don't yet have a volunteer role, now is the perfect time to get connected to one. If you go to that web address, that QR code, if you just click on that image, it will bring you to the page that lists out all of our volunteer opportunities. If you have questions about those, you can let us know, and we would love to find a place where you can use your gifts and passions. September 3rd is our backpack blessing. Again, we are going to invite all of our kids of any variety who have backpack. I mean, if you're older and you're going back to school and you want to bring your backpack and you want to participate in that backpack blessing, I guess you don't necessarily have to be a kid. It's just a fun opportunity for us to welcome our students of all ages, all shapes and sizes, and to be praying over not only their backpacks, but their year ahead. It's also a good opportunity to invite other people who might be interested in checking out the Grove, and that's a convenient excuse to do so. And then pop-up pumpkin patch, yes, October 14th, that's a long way off, but we, again, already have over 1,000 people who are registered, or not registered, RSVP'd on the Facebook event. That does not mean that all of them will show up, but we did have over 1,000 people out here last year. And we need to start making progress on this event like now. So if you are interested in volunteering with that, there's an opportunity to sign up. We have another planning meeting on Tuesday. So if you are able and willing to help with that, we will take all of the help and the ability that we can get. The last thing, which is not on here but is timely, is next week we're starting a new series. If you've been around the last couple summers, it might sound familiar, campfire stories. Woohoo. So what we do is we take these old stories from the Bible and we give them some fresh coat of paint and say, what if we read these just as stories that you would tell around a campfire? We're not asking questions about, is this historically accurate? How can we track whether it's historically accurate? We instead say, how would this be told around a campfire, and how would that change the way that we understand it and how we apply it? So this year we are talking about the parables, some of the stories that Jesus told and that his followers told for decades around campfires before they were even ever written down. So we start that next week. We hope you'll join us for that. Hopefully we will be outside. And like we did last year, the goal is to have a fire set up and doing s'mores afterwards. Not just for kids. Okay, with that, you're already standing. I'm going to have you extend your hands to receive this blessing, but a little bit different. I'm going to have you close your eyes today and ask you to do something a little bit maybe uncomfortable. I want you to think about the people of Nineveh and who they are for you. Who are the ones who rub you like human sandpaper? And I want you to think of them, and I want you to picture their faces. They might be family members, they might be friends, they might be old friends who are no longer friends, they might be neighbors. Who are those people? May we come to understand the depths of God's grace for ourselves, and may we grow in grace by extending grace to those people in your mind, regardless of whether they do anything with it. Not approving of them, but rooting for them and rooting for their transformation as well. May that be so. Amen.
So wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine.
It's always so fun to play. Come gather round the mystery of love in our broken history, where grace heals the fault lines in me, time and time again, welcomes me to a house for the hungry, a well for the thirsty, where all saints come together, shoulder to shoulder. Welcome for the traveler, new wine for the vineyard, and all things God is able. Love has a bigger table. Show me who is my neighbor. The Christ didn't need the beggar. doesn't need a stranger. Love calls them friend, welcomes them in to a house for the hungry, a well for the thirsty, where all saints come together, shoulder to shoulder. A welcome for the
with equity, reigning with empathy in the name of love. I see a king standing with those in need, welcoming refugees in the name of love. I see a king making it all